has a heart that burns very bright for the Lord. Hulian's one of those missionaries that you would always expect to be a missionary because he's not always the, the tie,
Yeah,
the button up,
the shirt,
all those kinds of things. But he's just one of the most genuine Christ followers that I know. We've been working with him a long time. How old were you when you
I
met
was
Rick?
10 years old. No, I met them when I was 8, but I was 10 years old when I started working with the Hawaiians. I think it all started because they're too wild and hyper and nobody can handle them. So they were like, give him to Hulian. He's as wild as them. And that was the beginning of our friendship. I'm 34 years old and we've been together since I was 10.
Long time.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pray for him. We're going to let him go. Hulian, I think we're going to give him a break halfway through.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
And then we'll let you just take the reins and go.
Yeah.
I know you guys are going to be blessed by Hulian's share and his story and things going on today. Let me pray.
Yeah, that's fine.
God, we thank you for Hulian. We thank you for his life. We thank you for the way in which you just choose us. You pluck us out of our situations and you put our feet onto a path, Lord, and you say, go. Lord, and I just thank you for my brother here. All the successes that he's had, all the situations he's found himself in, and yet found himself which way was up and which way was toward you, Lord. Just grateful for him, Lord. Would you just fill this room with your presence? Would you speak this morning just through my brother here, Lord? And would we all not just be here to have a good time or to check off the box that we went to class this morning, Lord, but let this be a genuine time where our hearts are open for you to speak. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Let's do this. So I'm going to ask you guys, I'm going to go slow with you guys, and mostly because my English sometimes it gets really hard to speak it, or your English is really hard sometimes, to your language. But so I'm gonna be honest. I'm nervous. I've never really done this with students. This is my first time actually. Usually I'm actually talking with in prisons. I've been in prisons in the States and usually in my country too, which is it's just an environment that I'm familiar with. I'm usually, but you guys are like all nice and awesome people and. Thank you. But you guys are, are here to study. You guys are learning. But I was asking myself when I found out that I was coming up here, and I didn't know that I was going to speak with you guys. Tony finally, told me that, and I got nervous. I'm like, oh my goodness, what do I have to offer to you guys? You guys are here for a year or more, and you guys come from maybe a church. You guys come from maybe a Christian family. That's something that in Mexico, we don't have any of that. I didn't grow up in a Christian home. I don't have that background. I didn't grow up with my mom taking me to church or my dad, or I didn't even grow up with a dad or a mom, to be honest. I was an unwanted children that my mom thought I was a mistake and that I was more of a problem and a trouble and a burden. So it was much easier for her to say, you know what, I'm done with you. She grabbed a backpack, put it on the outside of the door, and I saw that from the street. We used to live on a hill, so I saw that from the street. I saw that backpack going through that door outside, leaving it, closing that door. And I knew exactly at that moment when I saw my backpack with my stuff, what it meant. It means you don't have a home. It means you don't belong to this family. It means we can't handle you. And that was it. I have no place to live. I have nowhere else to go to. So what I did is what I'm known, go to the streets and hang out with a bunch of the kids. We moved into an abandoned building, and we got to just hang out with each other. We stole stuff. We broke into cars, into home, just to eat. And sometimes it was just to cover us from the cold. We broke into a car to have a little nice comfort area to sleep in it. We wake up early in the morning and then leave that car untouched. We didn't really break anything. We just broke into it. So I was thinking about what would I say to you guys if I get to be in front of you guys, and this is something that I wanted to say, not just say it, but I want to in some ways go a little bit through it. And you guys, this is how I see you guys. You guys are the future leaders of tomorrow. You are the next youth pastor. You are the next pastor of your church, or you're going to be the next missionary that maybe one of you guys will end up in my country. You are the next missionary. And if any of you guys end up in my country, what would I say to you guys and what would I love to say to you guys? And this is what I would love to say to you guys, and that is to love people. But what is exactly, like, what do I mean by love people? Like, what is Hulian trying to say, like, love people? Down there in Mexico, one of the things that happens a lot is like the missionaries or the people or the ministers, and I mean Mexicans and outsiders, they come in to do ministry. For whatever reason, that country is attractive, and so many other countries that they're like in a rough environment, they sell. People want to be there because that's where the battlefield is, and they want to go there. But I feel like those sometimes they come with the wrong reasons why they're there. Because it sells, because it's cool, because it gives you a position, it gives you a place. If you write about it, if you post about it on social media, which is like a big thing nowadays, where everybody wants to take a selfie, look at me, I'm down here in Mexico, and it's attractive and it sells though. But people through time and through years, they notice that's all it is for you guys. For those who go and do ministry, for those who go and do missions, and those who want to go and love others, Sometimes there's situations in our country where people use my country, my city specifically, because it's closer to the States. It's a stepping stone. It is, I want to go to Mexico, I want to do ministry in Tijuana, because it will help me jump into the job that I want to get into. It will give me a place where I want, like, what, if I do this for a year, for 5 years, I know tomorrow I'm going to have a better offer and a better deal. So that's what I mean when that's what I want to talk about love, and those little things, those kind of mentalities that we have. The moment you walk into the streets and the first thing you do is it's pull your phone out, and then you do this thing is so addictive. Though I wake up and the first thing I grab is this, It is so addictive. But this thing right here, it is, and I'm not saying I have nothing against iPhones. I have nothing against phones, not at all. But this idea of like, look at me like this idea, it actually hurts the people too. Like it really does though. It doesn't, there's people in my country that are willing to take a selfie with you because they want to get something out of you. And they know that you taking that selfie, you're going to get something out of that situation. So it's kind of like a two-side of that. It doesn't change anything on these people's life, and maybe it doesn't even change anything for you. Maybe it gives you a position, maybe it's not. But I want to talk about love. Why would I ask you this? Because there's a huge need for that. There's a need anywhere in the world, including in this island or where you go back home, wherever it is that you're from. There's a need for you, truth and unique love. Unique love, like totally just step out of like your comfort zone. There's this idea in our country where, in Mexico, I don't know how to say it, but in Mexico we love positions, we love the titles, we love the titles, and we like to walk with that little name tag right here, licenciado, doctor, or whatever. That means doctor. Or I went to college and I have all these degrees and I'm into it. And they like that little name tag that they put right here that it looks golden. It just attracts them. It gives them a place. Pretty much it means, look at me, I'm important. Look at me, I'm here, and because you need me, and that also hurts too down there. It totally hurts, and that's something that I wish to really. I'm hoping that wherever it is that you end up and wherever it is that you go to ministry, you will not be that type of person. And that if you even go to the mission field or you end up at your home and you work with street kids or you work with drug addicts or you work with broken people, because that's where we're here for, to work with broken people. We're not going to go into, little nice areas. I mean, there's opportunities for that too. But Vaughn used to say, the darker the better. The darker the better. If there was a situation in a neighborhood, if it was a neighborhood that he couldn't go into it was a challenge for him. It was like, how can I get into this neighborhood? And he will make it a challenge, and he will find a way to get into this place and make a difference in that life, in that environment. He is somebody who, but, I want, I'm trying to like I said, it's hard for me to tell you this, guys, but because the truth of it is, though, is that, there's a broken world, and that has been going on for a lot. But then there's this new bubble. I was talking with Rick down there, and he named it machine, or that's what he named it. But there's this new idea, there's this new world where we think that ministry, we think that loving people, we think that serving God, it's about ourselves. It's about me doing ministry, but what can I get out of it? You know, it's about this little bit of comfort zone. It's about, I want to do ministry. I want to look cool. I want to dress cool. I want to drive the nicest car. I want to be in the best seats ever. And that's also really growing in my country. It is attractive to my people. People who are broken and people who are hungry, not just physically, but they want attention, stuff like that. So that sells a lot. So for me to get up in front of you guys and ask you to really step out of that bubble, if that's part of your world, or if you're into that kind of stuff like that, to literally stop all that and to think about, like, why are we here today? Why are we truly honest doing what we're doing? Why are we doing it? You know, truly ask yourself, why are we doing this for? You know, because loving, it is not easy. True love, it is not easy. It is not easy to go into someone's life and love them without any expectations, without any rules, without any requests from you, but to love them. You know, I told you that I ended up in the street when I was probably 5 years old, and then Vaughn comes into my life when I was 8 years old. And then out of nowhere, this guy makes a decision and says, you know what, Hulian, he pulls over to my block with a white van. And the only thing that they said in Spanish was like, we're here to pick you up. I didn't ask any questions. I was living in an empty building with a bunch of other kids. I remember grabbing that same backpack that my mom left at the door, throw it in the back of the door, slam that white van door, and then got in the front, got sit down the front. I'm excited. I'm like this little brown kid going so hyper and excited. By that time, we know who Vaughn is. He had a relationship with people. He was somebody who was different, and he was humbled, and he was somebody who was willing to listen to you, go down to your level, and see you as equal as he is. There was no, I'm the missionary. There's no, I am the American. There's no, I'm come from the name of God and you are less than me. There was none of that. It was this guy from San Diego that could drive across the border and wanted to hang out with us and wanted to be one of us. And no matter how dirty, filthy it was, he was there. He didn't come with like any expensive stuff. He didn't come with any titles. He was just this old dude that wanted to hang out with you and just wanted to be with you and wanted to get to really know you. There was a reason and a purpose for that. The purpose was for you to get to know Christ through that moment. At the end of it, he was like, if I can get them to listen and to know that God has something for their life, I did it. It didn't matter the time. He waited for the moment. Even if it took him years, he waited. And when he spoke those words to people, it changed their life completely from the inside out. So this guy shows up to my block and literally just says, I'm here to get you. I throw the backpack, I get in the front, and then I drive to this dorm. There's this kind of like you guys' house. It is meant for Americans to live in, and it was just for you guys who go down there and stay for a week. And that was the beginning of it. It was not like a beautiful thing. It was not an easy thing. And I bet that it was not easy for Vaughn to pick up a kid from the streets that is fresh out of the streets, that knows about stealing, that knows about drugs, that knows about the hard life, and just take him into his own home and raise him. It was not. He was constantly in my life. He was somebody who actually was like, you know what, even if you spit on his face, he will get up, you will get up the next day and he will be right there actually with the plate on the food at the table, and he will ask you like, are you ready to have breakfast? And that was one thing. He was like, are you ready to go to school? You go to school, you do your things, and then you come back home, and he was ready to sit down with you and ask you, how are you doing? How's school for you today? That was the second thing that it blew my mind. And then little by little, those things are better, like they get added. You make dumb decisions, you make mistakes, you get involved in the dumbest things ever, and then the next thing he says, you know what? Get up. He's down there to reach up to you and says, get up. You're not done. This is not over. So that made a difference too in my life. And it made a huge difference in our people's life in our country. He was somebody willing to love you. He was somebody to go down to your ground and speak life into you. He was willing to get down on the mud. He was willing to really get hurt. Even if you say something bad to him, even if you rejected him, Even if you stole from Vaughn, even if you popped the tires because you hated him, even if you broke a glass of his, like one of those glass from his car because you were like, I don't like this old man, I don't know why he comes and sees me, because those things happened. And those things will happen to you. Maybe they will not break into your car, but you will get hurt if you're willing to truly, truly love. And step out of this idea that, you know what, I'm here to help you. I'm here, I was sent, but just go down to our level. Step out of your little titles or your little position and go down to this ground and meet me and see me in the eye and just show me love. It is hard. Once the moment you go down that road and you start loving people, and the moment you start with your call and say, you know what, I'm going to love these people. The fact that just God loved me, I'm going to do that because of that. And you go do that, and then if you go with expectations, believe me, you are going to get hurt, and you're going to get disappointed. It's easy to give up. I was talking, this morning, and I was just talking and sharing. Sorry, sir, what's your name? I was talking with Paul. Right now, we're talking about, my relationship with the Hawaiians, and where it all comes from, and how Vaughn, met Rick and his youth group, and that's the little circle we all come from. But what I was talking with him is that having Vaughn in our country, it was unique. Everybody was into themselves. Everybody wanted to do things because they looked cool, because it was awesome, because it gives you a position. But then this guy was willing to step out of that bubble, and that little bubble, and say, you know what, I'm not going to follow what the crowd says. I'm not going to follow into what the new system is. I'm not going to do that. If I'm going to go into do ministry, if I'm going to go into love people, if I'm going to go into reach out people for Christ, I'm going to do it with any of this and just go down there and be one with these people and love them and be there. Even if they spit on you, even if they say something bad to you, even if you had your expectations and you invested so many years and so much money to this person, and at the end of that, this person screws up and does some mistakes, and then you go like, oh my goodness, why did I invest so much into it? But even if that happens in your lives and ministry, that you get to the point where you have given so much, and at the end of it, there's no result, that you will still get up the next day and say, you know what, how are you doing today? And treat people like that. And see them like that. For so many years, I wonder, why would this guy pick me up from the street? Why would this older man will just go out into my block and say, you know what, I'm going to take this kid and I'm going to raise him as he's my children. Why would you do that for? You have no right to do it. And then when I used to do mistakes, after like all the years that he invested and after all the words that he spoke into my life and all the things that he did, whether washing my clothes, whether go get me a movie because I wanted to watch a movie. When I was sick, he will make me some tea with some milk in it and then make sure that I was ready for that, in the mornings, and then ask me how I was doing. If I'd actually covered myself, he will go into the room and put me another blanket on top of me, and then I will probably take that thing off of it, and he'll come back and redo it again, and then wake up again and check if I'm sleeping. If I'm doing really good, why would he continue doing those things for me if I'm being a pain in the butt to him? Why would you continue doing that? Why is this guy willing to step out of his throne and his lifestyle? Because he could have stayed in the States. He could have just stayed in the States, and live life. He could have just do ministry out there in the States and not necessarily have to deal with any situations across the border. But why? That was my question. Why are you acting this way? Why is it that every single time that I tell you no, the next day you are there again? Why? Why do you come down to this country and do what you do? And we wonder for years, why? And he will always, always be there. But there's all this unique love. And there's this unique thing that it was, I don't know what to call it though, but it's just the way that he loved you. Literally, I remember, and he still did the last years of his life, He will look at the kids and just like kids, I like when we're embarrassed, when we don't want to, like, it is hard for, when we carry guilt, it is hard for us to like really look at someone in the eyes. And we will look at like this and be like, no, Vaughn, everything's good, we're good. But then he will like lift your chin up and he will ask you, look me in the eyes, boy. Look me in the eyes. You know? But this love thing, it goes beyond, I did this for you, I'm expecting something from you. So true love, it hurts. True love, it hurts. It is not about you, and it's not about me. What you're doing here today, the learning, I'm hoping that this doesn't stay in another post on your social media. Or it doesn't stay on your on your lifestyle like another, like, oh yes, I went to this school and it stayed there. There's a huge need for true love out there. There's a huge need. And if you want to go to Mexico, there's a huge need for true love. There's, like I was saying, that this new bubble thing where it sells, like, my people are hungry, and when they see this new bubble where it's like, I want to live in a nice apartment, I want to have a nice lifestyle, I want to drive nice cars, and I want to be so cool. So that sells down there. So if you offer that to the poor people of Tijuana, they'll look at it and go like, man, I want to be part of that. They don't want to be part of that because of the sacrifice for God. They want to be part of that because of the wrong image that we're giving to the people down there. They want to be part of that because of that reason. It is not our sacrificial life that we have for Christ, and be willing to go down to the level and love them as who they really are and see them as how God sees them. And so, you know, they look at our lifestyles and they want that. That's the bubble that is growing down there. And I just find out through Rick that bubble has been going on for so long. But since I've been so exposed to Vaughn, this is the first time that I've been without him, that I see this bubble and I'm like, it's the biggest bubble I've ever seen in my life. And it's attractive. It's attractive to do ministry and to do any of these things like that and live in a comfort area. Or live in a little bubble where you're like, you know, it's all about you. And it's attracted to my people that are broken and they're hungry to look at that and go like, man, I want to be like that, and I want to be in that bubble, and I want to do those things, but they don't want to follow Christ because of the right reasons. They don't. You read that Bible, and you read the stories, and you have had people in front of you speak to you that following Christ, really it is not as like, it's not as like all this little bubble. He even said it. He had no place to lean his head on. He had no home either. And he speaks that to his disciples. When they all wanted to be next to him, when they wanted like a seat on the throne with him, he will look at it and go like, you guys do not understand what you guys are asking for. Because he's called, the way that he was walking in this earth was the hardest thing. It is hard to love. And it is hard to step out of yourself and let God be the one, literally be the one that guides you on all of this. And you will always struggle with this. I always struggle with that. The human thing, this Hulian thing, this hard person, it always tries to get in the way of what God wants to do. It gets in the way all the time. And that's going to be another struggle for you too. There's always going to be your persona that is going to get in your way, your expectations on how you want things to be and how you wish them to be. And not just that, if you're like a control freak, like I grew up with this German guy, and there was always like strict and like we wanted order. Like we get up early, like at 4:30 in the morning, and we start working and Argus and everything needs to be. So it is hard for those who we grew up that way, that we want structure and we want order. And I want to tell you guys something outside of like, now that it's Tony right here, not to kiss up to you, Tony. Not to do any of that, but like when he said about about the shirt and the lawn and the nice pants and the nice beautiful belt and the cool shoe shines, because that sells in Mexico, and add that with a nice card, and people will blow their minds. Like completely attracted to that. But I remember the first time I met them, I was following that path and I was willing to go because I thought that maybe that's where the Christian level is. Like maybe if I wear a tie, maybe I'll get to the point where I'll be closer to God. Maybe if I'm wearing those nice shoes and those nice pants, I will get to this point where I will be like with all these nice, awesome Christians. you know. And then I was called to this ministry that they were involved with, you know. And the reason again is because it was hard for them to handle them. And they go like, well, it's just Spring Hulian, man. I live like another hour away from that side of the city. So I'm driving all the way back. And then the first thing that I see him, and then they introduce me and go like, okay, so he's the pastor. And I couldn't let go. I couldn't let go. Like my head was like, why? Like, how, like really? Like I even asking so many times, like, are you really the pastor? It changed my life. It completely did. It was something different. It was not the typical guy that walks down there, you know, that has that Bible right here, the biggest. In Mexico, we love the biggest Bibles. I don't know what it is about the Mexican culture, but the bigger and the thicker, we feel like, oh, this guy really reads the Word of God. But it's attractive. It gives the people in my country like, oh my, if you walk, and believe me, you can have the biggest book in your hand and walk around with it, and people will be like, oh my goodness, this brother really is into the Word of God, you know? But I don't know what it's about, but he was not like that. Just like Vaughn didn't came down with a huge Bible. I remember Vaughn driving and with a Volkswagen into our neighborhood the first time we met him, and then he just came up, he opened the back out door of his truck, and he had candy in the back, and he had like a little shocker, you know, to shock kids. So we thought like, you know, Mexican culture is always about like macho and tough, and look at me, I can handle it. That's not true, dudes. We cry too, and we run away from things too. We're scared too. We're scared of things that don't even exist, like this ghost called like the crying lady. That doesn't exist, but as soon as we hear, oh, La Llorona, and then we run away, you know. But we cried too. But he opened his back door, and he has candy, and he has like pictures of the jungle, and he has things that like, we're looking at it, and literally he has this little shocker, and he's like, "¿Quieres? You want some?" And we're like, "What is it? Just ¿Quieres or no? You want some? Yes or no?" And we're like, "Let's try it." And we grab that thing, and we're like, "Oh, we want to pull the other kids." So, you know, we make a circle, and we're like being shocked by this guy, but he's having time with us. He's hanging out with us. He didn't came down with a big book. He didn't came down with a title. He didn't came down saying, look, I am the outsider and I'm here to fix your life. None of that. He just came down with a Volkswagen. It is the oldest Volkswagen I've ever seen in my life. And then he opens the back door. There's little things in there to hang out in there. And literally, it's like that brings like 20 kids. Then the next day, 2 days go by because I know now that I did ministry with him, is like he goes to the neighborhood souk. So we waited a few days, and then this time we waited, at the end of the road. So we see this huge hill going down, and then it goes into our neighborhood. So we waited right at that end, and we see a spot like a white car, and we're like, oh, here comes Vaughn. So excited, and then, oh, it's another car. It's just white, But we're waiting right there, and we're like, oh, here comes Vaughn. Oh, no. And then we'll send some of the kids to go up to the hill to spot, see if Vaughn is coming or not. And go like, oh, here comes Vaughn. And it's another white car, but it's not Vaughn. So we got to the point where having someone different in our life, someone willing to hang out with you, someone to understand you and not judge you for what you've done and the things that you're about to do, but willing to hang out with you. It made a difference in our life. And that's what made us wait for him the next day. And that's what made us get up the next day and say, you know what, I want to walk to the entrance at the end of the neighborhood and wait for this white Volkswagen to drive by. And as soon as we saw, I still have that memory in my heart, like in my head too. Like as soon as we see that white car, it's not like he pulls over, and he didn't do that. He'll drive into the neighborhood. And what do the brown kids do? All the little brown kids, they're all running in the back, and we all running. Oh, and then we yelling, Vaughn is here. Ya llegó Vaughn. Vaughn is here. Vaughn is here. And everybody's running. And so from like all this 10, 15 kids, now has 30 kids in the back of his Volkswagen running towards him. And what does he does? He opens the back of his Volkswagen, and he's hanging out with you. He has this little tiny little chocolate that he's given to you and asking you, how are you doing? Where do you live? Now that we know him, now that he has spent time with us, we have this trust that we can take him to our home. So we invite him to our home, and he's willing. He's actually willing to go into your own house. And the Mexican culture, we don't have like, this is really big for like a house. Literally the rooms that we live in it down there, they're way smaller than this. And if I'm not mistaken, they're probably half of this room. And this is our home. We have a bed that we share with our brothers and sisters. And there's a bed for mom or dad. And that's pretty much it. A little tiny stove where we cook. Sometimes we don't even get to afford to have a floor, and it's just dirt. And then some of the mattresses that we sleep in, they're not brand new mattresses. They're bought in the streets for like, $2 or $3, but it's our mattress. Well, that mattress comes into our home and we're excited because we got a new mattress. We don't care where it came from. We don't care if it's dirty for whatever. We'll decorate it. We'll make it look nice with some covers, but we're excited because there's and Vaughn is willing to go into your house. He's willing to sit down. He's ready to sit, like really hang out in your own world. And then he's willing to do one of the things that not everybody wants to do down there, and that's actually try your own food. Regardless of how poor we are, it doesn't matter if we wash our hands or not. It doesn't matter if we use this knife or the other knife, or we use the weirdest way to cook it. And he's willing to try it. He's willing to go in there and see what you're cooking, even if it looks kind of weird and sketchy. And he's willing to dig his hands in there and eat with you and hang out with you, and he's at your table. We don't have a table, but we say it like that. So there's a need for true love. There's a need for that. There's a need for every single one of you guys in this world. I come from across the border, well, not across the border, across the ocean. And there's a need down there. And I know you're probably going to say, well, there you are, Hulian. Believe me, if one of you guys goes into my country, what takes me 10 years, it only takes 1 day for you. You'll gain trust and you'll gain respect. And they'll open the doors to you. You're an outsider. They trust in the outsiders a lot. Because there's been a lot of abuse from the people from the inside. So it takes me years. It takes me almost 10 to 15 years to gain that respect. But when you guys go down there, if you choose to go to, it will take only 1 day for you. And when you go down there, I want to take advantage of your life. And I want to use that situation that literally open that door so that you can have access to them and then they can meet Christ through you. Because they're going to open the doors for you. I use the word brown kid and I joke about it and I have fun, but it takes me time to use it. They know that I use that and they know I call my people like that. But the first time that I used it, they were like, I'm not brown, and we all look brown, But there's a need. There's a need for love, for true love. And if you do ministry, and no matter where you at, my question was, what would I ask you? And even though I said it at the beginning, that means to love people, I mean it though. Be willing to love people outside of your title, outside of your comfort zone, outside of your bubble if you have a bubble. And if you have a bubble, just pop that thing. Just don't be like that. Just get out of that. I know that's the new thing. I don't know if it's a new thing. For me, it's new because I've never been outside of Vaughn. But, Rick was telling me that there's this things where ministry and serving others, it's literally down in Mexico. And anyone who goes down there, it's about themselves. It's about how cool I look doing ministry. It's about, I want to do this because I want to have the attention of everybody. I want to do this because it's the coolest thing ever. I'm going to be honest. I was in a ministry that they invited me to talk to the people because a lot of the people that were doing ministry there, they wanted to do ministry mostly because of the traveling. And all they talked about, I've been to India, I've been to Africa, I've been to all these countries, but that was all. Nobody spoke about the lives changing of the people. This thing that we do, ministry, it is attractive. It's a cool thing. We get to travel. We go to different countries. We get to do weird stuff. Some of us, we get to, some people fight among each other because who has the best support ever. And they want to reach out to the biggest churches. They want to reach out to the biggest supporters. It's a huge battle. And even in Mexico, it happens too. We're fighting among each other and we're competing with each other because we want to reach out to the biggest support ever. We want to tell the people who support the saddest stories so that their hearts can be broken, so they can be like, you know what? I love what he's doing. I'm going to write him a check and send it down there to him. And a lot of that happens too. And that's my own brother fighting with me. We're not even fighting the right fight. But we're so caught up in ourselves, thinking that all of this is for me. I'm doing ministry for me. All this nice, good lives and comfort zone, it's all for me. It's because of me that the ministry is where it's at, or it's because of me that God gets to do what he does. And it's not truth. God has given us the privilege, and it's an opportunity for you and I to go and represent him no matter where you're at. The fact that he gave his own son on the cross for you and for me should be enough to trigger something inside of you to go out in the streets and love people. But with this new bubble in my country that is all about ourselves, when I hear something like that, it all like, oh, here goes Hulian again. Here comes Hulian again. It seems like that sells more. It seems like that's more important. It seems like that's what we hear, that's what we do all of this for. There's a need for love. There's a huge need for you to be willing to get hurt. For you to say, you know what, God, truly, truly God, here I am, and use me. Not use me, but. Vaughn used to say, the moment you hear that word but, then it all changes. Vaughn used to ask people all the time, you want to come and hang out? Oh, yes, Vaughn, but. And we was like, okay, we'll turn around to the next person. The moment you put those little requests and those little questions like that, I don't know how far it is. I don't think I want to hang out across the border. I don't think it's, oh my goodness, there's a lot of shooting. And then, this morning, if you wonder, like, why do I get up early and then I walk around? It's not because I've never been to Hawaii before. It is weird for me, the silence. I'm so used to the screaming, the guns, and the sirens, and the cops, and all that. Like, literally, that's just, and for me, it's kind of, it's just, it always happens every time I'm here. But be willing to to be used, to be honest. Be ready for that. Be ready. And if at some point, to be honest, Vaughn used to tell all the kids in Mexico, because it was a hard environment to do ministry and to become a Christian. Not necessarily because the culture criticizes you. The culture does criticize you. It's a Catholicism. It's a country run by Catholicism. Catholicism is the biggest and the strongest. Well, right now we have Muslims too. So those two are like the biggest ones down there right now. But it gets criticized a lot when you're walking around, and when you're going to go to church, people look at you and they laugh and people question you. It is not something serious. It is not. Sometimes it's a joke, But Vaughn used to say that told the kids, the Mexican kids, if you're walking, if you're walking and you can reach out to your friends like this, and if you're walking, then you better think about where you're heading. Vaughn used to speak to the kids in Mexico that the path, the walk with Christ, it is not like this, hanging out with your buddies, hanging out with your best friend in ministry. It is not like that. Living life, being all cool, being all awesome, everything's good, everything's awesome. Vaughn was like, if you can reach out your arms, if you stretch them, if you can reach out for all your friends and family like that, it's like, because the path, it's hard and it's so narrow. Vaughn used to be so strong when it come to following Christ. And he used to speak like that to our people. For him, it was not a joke, and it was not a cool thing to follow God. And there was an expectation and a hope that those who get to know Christ, he expected from us to be more willing to love others. He was really hard when it comes to people who knew Christ. I mean, and I took it from example. There was days where honestly, I didn't have the energies for it. There was days where I just didn't want to do it. And there was days where I thought it was too cool to do it. I thought it was too cool to do it. And the moment I see myself walking, or like Vaughn sees me walking like that, that's the moment that Vaughn will stop me right there and go like, oh, slow down, boy. And I didn't like it at all. As soon as he told me to slow down, boy, stop, boy, I was like, oh, he's going to be at me now. It looks like you need to rest. It looks like you need to go take a break. It looks like, I guess I didn't have the right attitude. I have this little self person that gets on the way all the time. Things that I want to, things that I wish for. And it gets on the way if I let that happen. If I do let that happen, it gets on the way. But I'm not here to tell you to move to my country. If you do, that'll be awesome. Because there's an open field down there for true love. But I think it's anywhere in the world. Even if you choose to stay in Kauai, there's a huge need also here for true love. And it is hard. No matter where you're at. It is hard to love people. Without your conditions, without your limitations, and without any of the expectations that you want to. There's a story in the Bible that for whatever reason, I think it has to do with our culture and how our ancestors were in Mexico. But we love stories. We love stories. I mean, we love stories in Mexico. We love to sit down and hear stories about how this country started. We love to hear stories about, anything. You can talk about like ghosts. We love it. But we love stories. But we love them way more, and we treasure the stories when somebody is different. And there's a story that we talk about a lot, but sometimes we don't really grasp that story as it is, though. But the Catholic Church down there, on December, we celebrate Jesus' birth, And we have this tradition, and the Catholicism, they have this little baby Jesus, and they make this huge, I don't know what they call it, what do you guys call it in English, but we have this big, huge, where Jesus is sitting on that little thing that he's born. That what? Major's called? Yeah, well, where he's born, it's like the whole set. There's Jesus in the middle, and there's like the mom and the dad, and there's like all these animals in the back, and there's like that. But it's a huge thing down there, and one of the things that we love about this is that, the Jewish people were expecting their Messiah to come down with all this power, and when we hear that, we picture like maybe horses with fire and thunders, and we love stories, like I said, and we picture that Jesus would have come down here with a huge, kind of like the Marvel movie, just like a huge bam on the floor, and that's Jesus right there, and he comes to conquer. But the story tells that this guy didn't come like that. He came in the most humble way ever. And he had every right to come just like another Avenger, boom, down on the floor. Maybe with a huge hammer, maybe thick, I don't know, but my country loves stories, but we like to picture things like that. And he had every right. He could have done it. He had every right. He had all the power to do it. But instead like that, he comes in a way that it was not expected. Just the way that my people were not expecting to meet Vaughn with this unique love. We grew up in a culture that says, you know what, you're meant to be a slave, you're meant to be this. There's nothing else better for you than this. You were destined to be like this. That means if you're parents, that means if you're family, that means if you come in a neighborhood that is poor, you're meant to be poor, and there's nothing else for you. There's nothing else for you. And there's places in this world, there's countries in this world, there's people in this world that they grew up the same way. Because their parents were slaves, because my mom was a slave, because my grandpa was a slave, that I was born to be a slave. And you can take slavery into any aspect that you want, whether it's spiritually, whether it's physically. But we grow up thinking that this is our lifestyle, that there's nothing else for us. And we have this person that comes down in a humble way and loves people in a humble way. It even blew their disciples' minds to think about why is he, this guy's asked himself, why is Jesus talking to these people? Why is he hanging out with this kind of people? The fact that his own disciples question him and question why was he doing that. It's because all these guys have expectations. They had their own idea of how they wanted their Messiah to be, how they were like Jesus respond to and Jesus always respond against in different way that they were expected. Always did that. The way that he healed people, the way that he loved people, the way that he hung out with people, it was completely different than what all his disciples and what society was expecting from him. And Jesus didn't came as an avenger like that with a huge boom. Come in the most humble way. And like I said it before, he had every right. He could have just come down like that. But he decided not to. Vaughn had an option too. He could have come like the white German guys that conquered and said, I am this white German and I'm here because you need me. And he didn't do any of that. He drives with the little old Volkswagen and meets the people where they live and becomes one with the people and hangs with the people, eats with the people, and waits for the right moment. He takes this kid that is in front of you out of the streets and brings him into his own home, gives him a home, gives him a family, gives him an education, and feeds them and invests a lot of them. And he had no right to do it. He could have kept me on the streets. Instead, he comes here and says, you know what? This kid, I'm going to embrace him and take it as mine, and takes me to his own home. And he had every right not to do it. The moment I did the first mistake, he had every right to say, you know what? I'm done with you, boy. You got to go home because you don't understand it. Instead of that, because that's what I thought he was going to do, he's another guy who's going to get rid of me the moment I do a mistake. The moment I don't follow the rules, he's going to send me back home, back to the hole that he cut me out for, like he get me out from. That's my expectation. I grew up thinking that that's what people do. They love you, they invest in you. The moment they don't see anything from you, they'll move on to the next person. They'll cast you away, they'll push you away. But then I wake up the next day and then he has his plate on the table and he's, are you ready to eat, boy? How you doing, boy? Jesus had every right to come down as they were expecting him to do it. He had every right, and he could have done it. But he came in a way that nobody was expecting to. We were not expecting to have a missionary in our country and our city and in our life as humble as that and be willing to love you with no expectations. With no, I'll do this for you, but no. There was none of that. It was only this person that wanted to love others the way that God loved them. That's what he used to say. God did this for me. That's why I want to do this for you. God spoke into life into my life. I want to do the same thing for you too. I want to speak life into your life. God is using me. And then he goes to across the border and tells the Mexican people, you were meant to be something else. You could be more than just a slave. You can be more than just that. And then he will give you that chance for you to taste it. He was just not somebody who will speak. He will give you that chance for you to taste it. And that means he'll get to treat you like the way he was treated. Jesus treated him the best way ever. Jesus is treating you and me the best way ever. And he has blessed you and he continues to bless us. So it is fair, it is okay that when it comes to giving that to some other people, we'll do it the same way that God did it with us. He had every right to say, you know what, Hulian, I really don't want to hang out with you anymore. I think you're too much. I don't want to go across that border through Vaughn and hang out with those people. But no, he used these older men to drive across the border and do it. You're going to hang out. I don't know how long you're going to be here for, to be honest. I don't. And I don't know where you're from. And I don't know if you're going to go back to the mainland. I don't know if you're going to stay in your country or you're going to go out into your country. I'm not here to tell you move to Mexico, but if you do move to Mexico, and no matter where you move in the world, there's a huge need for true love. True love. It is not a love that is cool. It is not, it's funny, like I want to say this, and maybe one day I'll speak more about it. I try not to use this situation, but how do I say this though? But so I have a daughter, okay? So I have a 2-year-old daughter, Delilah's her name, and this kid, man. And I'm not saying going around and telling everybody have kids, I don't, but I mean, this kid, I think it came into my life, and it is one of the coolest things, and I know everybody talks about how cool their kids are, you know, but there was one night that I posted a video, and she's walking down the street, and she has this cone. There's this new thing in Tijuana that the cone is made out of a fish that is like filled with chocolate in the inside. I think it's like an Asian cone or whatever, but it's a new thing in Tijuana, and it's like a cone. The bottom of the ice cream with like a cone, but it's shaped like a fish. The mouth of the fish is open, and they stuff it with ice cream on it. And Dalila is walking down the street, and she's enjoying this thing, like literally, and she walks around everything, and she's watching things, and she's shaking hands with people, and she's saying, hola, buenos dias, like, hi, good morning. But she has a little cone, and she's walking around. So I'm filming this little kid walking down the street with this cone and shaking. I feel like she probably had the coolest thing ever. Maybe she had like, oh, I'm the happiest kid with this ice cream on my hands. And then making me like, this ice cream is making me really just full of this joy, energy. And I'm walking and enjoying this ice cream. I'm like, I can't help it. I just want to like share with everybody their love. And I'm like, so Lalila's walking around shaking hands, but she has this cone, and she's like excited. I'm like licking it, like, hey, how's it going? Hey, she's like this. And I post that thing, and I usually I don't like to post things a lot, but I posted this video, and then a guy named Eddie Passmore, he runs another ministry. He sent me a message and said, that kid loves life. And it got me thinking, what makes a person love life the way this kid is loving life, and not necessarily just loving it for herself, but also loving it and willing to express it to others the way that she's doing it? I don't know if she gets it, and I don't know what's going on in her head. I really do not know. I only see this little kid with an ice cream cone walking down the street and had the most awesome moment in her life and wants to share it with everybody. And the way that she's sharing this emotion or this energy or this like happiness is like by shaking hands with people as she walks with her ice cream cone. I don't know if it's the sugar. Maybe it was the sugar. I don't know what it is. You know, she probably felt the sugar going through her chins right here and go like, oh my goodness. But it got me thinking, like, what makes a person like that love life and be willing to share that? I'm not a perfect human being. I get tired some days. I get frustrated. You know, I get to raise this kid, you know, and I get, not all the time is, oh my goodness, it's so beautiful. No, there's days she throws herself into the ground and she's like literally making a mess and crying and screaming. I'm like, oh my goodness, like, come on, dude, you know, but she's doing her thing. So it's not always beautiful. It's not always the picture that I post and it looks really nice. No, but what is it that makes this kid love life and be willing to share with others? And I don't know if she gets it really. I don't know if she sees it or not. Or maybe I'm the one who's not getting it and I'm being taught a lesson through this kid. You know? But I think it's what you invest in this person, how you treat that person. I think when Dalila was born, I told this story to the Hawaiians when they were down there. I have this kid by myself and this little wheelchair. Well, not wheelchair. I don't know what to call it. It comes with a plastic and has tire, like this wheels on the bottom. And I don't know what to do. Like I have no clue what to do with the kid. She's like maybe 2 or 3 hours born, and I don't know what to do with it. So I had a speaker, and then I used my phone, and then I put this video of just sound of a car. And then it starts the video and the speed goes, you know, higher, and then you can hear in the video when the ship comes in and they go vroom, and it gets louder. So I have this speaker, and there's only like it's a private hospital. There's only 3 people more in the hospital. So I got the freedom to go through the first floor, the second floor, and I'm like, I'm going with this kid like this, vroom, vroom. And I'm driving on the hallways, and I'm going up the stairs with Dalila, and she's shaking, and she's like, literally, she's just fresh born, and I have this kid going down the stairs like that. I have no clue what to do. I never had a kid in my life before. This kid came into my life, and I don't know what to do. But I'm doing these things, and I don't even know if that's what makes this kid nowadays love life and wants to share that same love. You know, I remember like the second time that I did something like really, really crazy though. Like I have I got in trouble for that one, and it's not funny, but I grabbed Dalila, and I'm in this floor, and I'm in the second floor, and I'm so excited. I'm like, look at this kid, and I have Dalila through the window, you know, and somebody's yelling at me, what are you doing? You know, but I don't know if that's something that I got stuck in Dalila's. You know, I remember my daddy when he pulled me out of the window like that, you know. But I'm doing things, you know, as best as I can. And maybe it got me thinking that maybe it is what you pour into this kid that is making her love life. You know, I bet if I would be yelling at her and I would be screaming at her and I would be like, I can't put up with you, I just can't do it anymore. And I'm willing to deal with the situation. And even though she's crying and she's yelling and screaming, I'm willing to go down to her level, look at her and be like, okay, mamita, let's talk about this situation. Maybe what you poured into this kid is what's making this person love life. And it's not just staying within her. She's walking down the street with a cone and she's sharing that same love with other people. She's just walking down with a cone, shaking hands with everybody. She looks like a politician, you know? Shaking hands, hola, and buenos dias, and she's walking down. And it got me thinking like that post that Eddie Passmore posted, like she loves life, that kid loves life. And my question was like, what makes someone like this person love life? And not just be willing to love it, but to share with others. And I think it's what you pour into it. I think it's what you pour into people. If you're willing to love people, if you really pour into it, and if you see them struggle or give you an attitude and you don't want to get rid of them, but you're willing to work with out and talk with them and go down to the level and put yourself in that situation and fight and cry with them and get hurt with them together, then that's what I think is happening in Dalila's life. I think she's being poured into her own life, this love, that the only way she knows how to express it, because she doesn't talk a lot right now, she doesn't know a lot of words, is by shaking hands and saying, buenos dias, good morning. So there's a huge need for love. There's a huge need for someone to come into our life and be willing to pour. You memorize that book, you read it, you study it, you spend time with all these other Christians and talk and feed yourself. And feed. And talk about where you guys come from, what are you guys doing, where you want to go, how do you feel God is using, and what do you think God wants you to do, what country you want God to, you think you want to go to, and so you're fitting into all of this. You're fitting into it. You're being poured into it. The love, the attention, the care. God is pouring and He has poured into your life. Every little detail, all the way till this moment, God has been pouring into your life. On how the things got together. Maybe you don't have the money to make it this far, and God put it together. Maybe you have no clue what the heck was going to happen when you get here, but God put it all together. Maybe you were confused, maybe you don't understand what's going on, but God put it together for this moment, for you to be here. Now, my request, or my hope, I don't want to force into it. I don't believe in forcing. And I don't believe into any of that. And my hope is that you will be walking down the street like Delilah, with your cone, and share that same love that has been poured into you. That you will walk down the street knowing that God loves you and that He wants to love others too. She could have just grabbed that cone and that moment treasure for herself and be like, nope, this is my cone, this is my moment, I'm happy where I'm at, don't bother me, don't do anything, just let me be. And she could have every right to do it. But instead of that, she's walking down the street. I mean, she has like her own walks, but I will talk about her walks later. But she has this little walk, and she's like enjoying life and doing this. You have the cone in your hands now. Love has been poured into your life. The blessings, you've seen the blessings. You've seen the miracles. You study them too. You memorize the scripture. You're walking down that same street now with your own cone. You can take it to yourself. You can treasure and be jealous of it. And keep it to yourself and be, this is my moment. This is for me. This is my cone. Or you can just let it out, dude. Just pour it out. which I'm hoping you'll do that, no matter where you're at. Even if you go back home, just pour it. Let it out, man. People are broken. Till today, they still are. But they want a unique love. They want to see you walk down the street with your little your ice cream cone, smiling and shaking hands and pouring that love. So pour it. Don't keep it to yourself. Be humble as Jesus was. Don't come in with your titles. Don't come in because you study the Word of God and you invested 3, 4, 10 years of your life into it. Leave. Don't come in with any of that. Use it. Pour it into other people. What you've learned, the friendships that you guys have, the partnership. That's something that we don't have in our culture. We don't. The moment somebody succeeds, there's a saying in our culture that is illustrated with a bucket of crabs, like the little pincher things. So if you put a bunch of crabs in a bucket, the moment a crab sees the other one trying to climb out, it grabs him and then pulls him down. And it is referred to our culture. So there's no such thing as partnership or sharing or helping you succeed. It's only, I see you succeeding, I see you doing better than I am, I'm going to pull you down. This cannot be happening. If it's not me, there's no one else should be happy, and they pull you down. You get to experience differently. You're hanging out with friends, you're hanging out with family. Family is something that we don't even get to share down there either, a lot. Some of them just don't. I know Coco sells it differently when you watch that movie. I know they're together, they're awesome. They go run tour the kid into the different world. They're expecting him to go back home. I understand that's what Disney sells, but it's a whole different story down there, you know. So I'm gonna stop it for right now, but before I do, I want to say it again. You have the cone. You're walking down the street. Don't keep it to yourself. Pour it out. Share that love, though. Be humble the way Jesus did. You know, and when you do ministry, do it in a humble way that it will blow people's mind. And not just people, even yours. Because we have these expectations in our head. And we're human beings, and we're always going to fight against this body of how we want things to happen. But when you're actually willing to let him flow through you, I mean, believe me, things will go a different way. But don't be with expectations. Just be humble, you know. You know, we'll take a break, and then we'll come back again. Is that cool? Yeah? Okay.